Maybe after this video, I should do some paid promotion for my proteins omega-3 supplement. Make some money. Hey everyone, what's good? I hope you're doing well. I hope you're having a fantastic week so far. So the reason I'm kind of jumping on here real quick is about a new clinical trial that has just released some of its findings looking at omega-3 supplementation in Alzheimer's disease patients. So I'm going to share my screen and kind of walk through what I want to talk about today, show you exactly what we're looking at. So this is the original source that I found. It's actually an online news, medical news website, basically saying the following: Alzheimer's patients taking omega-3 supplements have stable memory test scores, as this study finds. So this is the study. So it's published in the Journal of Alzheimer's Disease. It was published, I think, a couple of days ago, whereby they've basically given supplementations of omega-3 to Alzheimer's disease patients, and then looked at biomarkers. So these would be markers of Alzheimer's disease in the CSF, which is the cerebral spinal fluid. It's basically the fluid that surrounds your brain and your spinal cord. And then looking at those levels in patients that take a supplement and then those that don't. The overall consensus and summary of the trial that they show in the initial abstract is basically saying that the biomarkers don't change. So basically saying that the biomarkers of disease don't go down when you give patients supplements of omega-3. In fact, some of them which are potentially associated with nerve damage, such as NFL, which I think is neurofilament light chain protein, something of that ilk, I can't remember its name exactly, actually is upregulated in the disease when people take omega-3 supplements. The study is incredibly small. I think it used around 33 patients, 18 of which was given omega-3 fatty acid supplement, and then the remaining 15 were given placebo. So it's an incredibly small clinical trial that was carried out here. What they don't really talk about in their initial abstract is the fact that these patients that are given omega-3 supplementation for a period of 6 months, their memory, their cognitive decline is somewhat delayed. And this statement is found on this newsmedical.net, which was quoted by one of the authors. Levy, I believe. Yeah, so Freund Levy, Yvonne Freund Levy is the senior author of this paper. She was quoted as saying the following: so we can see that memory function of the patients in the group that had taken omega-3 is stable, whereas the patients in the control group have deteriorated. That's what the memory tests show, but we can't see any differences between the groups when we look at various biomarkers in the spinal fluid samples. So even though omega-3 fatty acid supplement doesn't appear to reduce the biomarkers of the disease, it does appear to at least prevent memory decline for a shorter period of time in terms of this 6 months. This is really fascinating to me. And this really kind of goes back to my very much, I guess, kind of blunt statement that there isn't going to be a cure for Alzheimer's disease in the next 10 years. That's my opinion. I think it could actually be longer than that. I think the best way for us as a society to help starve off Alzheimer's disease prevalence in our society is to eat well and look after ourselves and look after our brain as we age. So this is quite a fascinating study, right? So, and this isn't a new thing. So there are reviews out there which talk about one of the active components of omega-3 fatty acid supplements or fish oil, for example. One of these is called DHA, which stands for docosahexaenoic acid. It's a horrible name and I never like saying it, but it's so basically omega-3 fatty acids incorporate a type of fatty acid called DHA and then another one called EPA, which are both appear to have beneficial functions in terms of reducing neuroinflammation and really important in terms of looking after your brain and cardiac health as we age, which is why many doctors, PCPs, GPs can recommend taking fish oil supplementation. It's the only supplement I have really ever taken my entire life. It's one of those ones where the evidence is so considerable to provide some form of health benefit, it's really important that you can kind of get enough of that in your diet. And not many people eat oily fish, for example. There's obviously a couple of caveats in terms of taking like fish oil, because obviously it's not vegan, for example, so or vegetarian. But it, in terms of a medical standpoint, in terms of trying to ward off and delay the onset of neurodegenerative diseases such as Alzheimer's disease, this could have some serious benefits. This clinical trial basically saying that perhaps we should really encourage supplementing omega-3 in the diet of many people. And don't just start when you're in your 40s or 50s, but actually when you're younger, let's say your 20s and 30s, where it's been suggested that some of the Alzheimer's pathology already starts to develop in your 20s. So that's quite crazy. So again, this is just another review, just looking at DHA as an essential nutrient for overall brain health and various diseases, not just Alzheimer's disease, but various of other diseases here as well, which is pretty fascinating stuff. And again, this was new. This was only published like about 3 years ago in September. Well, pretty much 3 years to the day. Interestingly, though, there was a clinical trial that was published in 2020 by one of the sub-journals from the Lancet, which is called eBiomedicine. And they were looking at DHA supplementation. So one of the omega-3 fatty acids found in omega-3 oil, for example, specifically just DHA though. And they wanted to look at basically its delivery into the brain. And what the study found overall, and I'm not going to go into this in a massive detail here, it was only 33 people that they looked at here. Interestingly, only 28% of, well, they actually looked at EPA as well, I do apologize. So what they found here is that when they do DHA treatment, which can be broken down into EPA, they identified that when they do oral administration of these formations of omega-3, that only around 28% of DHA gets in the cerebral spinal fluid, i.e. gets into the brain. EPA seems to be higher, but what they're saying here is that any dementia trial that is potentially giving omega-3 supplementation, the dose might be too low. The rationale being that there's a barrier between your brain and your blood called the blood-brain barrier. Drugs, when you absorb them orally, will go into your stomach and then they're degraded and then they diffuse from your gut into your blood and are transported around the body. The blood-brain barrier is basically a really strict barrier. It's like a bouncer at a really, it's like a bouncer at a really strict club. They're really selective about what drugs can get into the brain and what can't. The majority of drugs fail in terms of neurodegenerative disease and clinical trials because they can't get past the blood-brain barrier. You can't really inject many drugs into the brains of human patients. Many ethical issues with that. I can't imagine there'll be too many patients that will want to voluntarily do that in a clinical trial. So just keep that in mind. So, and they talk about like the dosage of things here. So they did 200, very, very specific amount of milligrams. So 2,152 milligrams of DHA per day or placebo over 6 months. And then they basically did lumbar punctures or spinal tap, if you're American, on those patients to identify how much of that DHA and its derivatives, so in this case EPA, was successfully transported into the cerebral spinal fluid. So fascinating stuff overall. I just really wanted to kind of talk about this in a short amount of detail, basically further kind of supporting that, hey, get some omega-3. Oh, wait, omega-3, get some omega-3. So omega-6s as well, also very good, but omega-3 is a good staple of your diet if you don't eat enough fish. Obviously, it's a lot of ethical considerations about overfishing and things, so you can always get supplements, which is what I do. I get supplements from omega-3, but it looks like it's really important, not just for cardiovascular health, but also for brain health and brain aging. So if you're really worried, like me, about potentially getting dementia when I'm older, or if you're in middle age and you're also thinking like, okay, maybe I need to think about different ways that I could look after my brain, as well as my heart and my cardiovascular system, omega-3 supplementation might be one of the ways that you can do that. So If you have any questions about this, please do let me know. I hope it's very helpful or informative. I'll post the links of the studies in the YouTube version of the video that I put out, just because it will be in HD rather than the Facebook one. I tend to just link them to YouTube now. It makes more sense. So yeah, otherwise, I hope you are happy and healthy. I hope you have a brilliant week, brilliant month, and a brilliant rest of your year. I think we all deserve that at least. So thank you very much, and I'll speak to you soon. Maybe after this video, I should do some paid promotion for these guys. My protein omega-3, come on.